Okay, so here we have some last minute guidance as to what you're being asked to do. Obviously, you've been called back by the company you gave your full presentation to for a second visit. And they've asked that you speak only about the ethical aspects of the problem to explain why your solution successfully handles any ethical issues. You'll have 10 minutes, no Q&A, no slides, no video. And I see you've got the requisite number of presenters, which is 2. And then when you have, I will keep time on my handy iPhone, and I'll try to give you a 2-minute warning when we're getting close to the end.
All right, we're ready whenever you'd like to start. Hello, Jimmy Choo Board of Directors. I am Emily Rosenkrantz, District Consultant's Business Development Consultant. I am joined by my colleague Alexa Williamson, our team's Ethical Operations Consultant. We are here today to remind you of our solutions and why it's ethically critical that you enact them before it's too late. In light of your company's troubled history regarding textile waste, material use, and corporate transparency, yesterday we recommended a 3-pronged solution to help Jimmy Choo stay in the game and win the game. To briefly review, these recommendations were: 1, innovate by installing a recollection and redistribution program to overcome a lack of concern around direct operation and post-production waste. 2, invest by exploring biodegradable alternatives to current materials used in production, many of which have already been cited as dangerous to public health. And 3, inform by releasing quarterly updates on sustainability goals to help your company take advantage of a growing consumer demand for transparency. Today, let's review the ethical urgency of these recommendations. The 2 of us will walk you through this pitch by first exploring the consequences of what your company is doing now. Then we will discuss the character your brand must develop in order to demonstrate care for the consumer. Next, Alexa will contextualize the globalization of socio-environmental harm and help you understand what role your company plays in this. Our goal for this pitch is to frame your understanding for how, and more importantly, why, your company should stand by the ethical defenses of our solutions and act upon them now. First, let's explore the consequences of these decisions to move forward with our solutions by discussing them in the context of social benefit versus detriment. We all already know that textile waste is a global issue. Nearly 17 million tons of textile waste ended up in landfills in 2018. This accounts for a staggering 4% of worldwide waste alone. The recollection and redistribution program we recommend you create offers perfectly good clothing and shoes a new life. Consumer donations would either be sold on secondhand markets, donated to charitable organizations serving impoverished communities, or would provide a source of sustainable materials for garment manufacturing and industrial purposes. The establishment of such a program that diverts textiles away from landfills gives Jimmy Choo the opportunity to challenge the issue of waste head on. In addition to the contribution of social good overall, your company is in a position to do its due diligence and commit to reducing the tangible harm of global textile waste. Now, let's talk about Jimmy Choo's role as an integral actor in these ethical decisions, specifically within the realm of our 3rd recommendation. This recommendation addresses your company's failure to provide stakeholders with clear, accurate, and timely progress updates on the sustainability goals set forth in their 2020 CSR report. Your brand needs to evaluate the character you envision for the future in comparison to what you are presenting now. And to communicate to consumers that you care about the virtues you put forth, it is imperative that these solutions be followed, or Jimmy Choo will fall behind in a growing market for sustainable luxury. We also want to mention the collaborative aspect present throughout our recommendations. In our Innovate recommendation, we suggest that Jimmy Choo partner with a nonprofit to create a recollection and redistribution program. In our Invest recommendation, we urge Jimmy Choo to invest in bio-based alternatives to materials and production by working directly with startups that have begun offering these alternatives to the market at large. And lastly, in our Inform recommendation, we remind Jimmy Choo of their membership in the G7 Fashion Pact, an organization composed of several high-end fashion brands who agree to progress on SDG goals together. If Jimmy Choo wants to signal to its consumers that it is responsive to their needs and willing to change for the better, you must recognize the virtuous merit in achieving these changes with the help of partners. In order to uphold the ethical character of your brand, think about what you stand to lose by not implementing these strategies. I'm now going to let my colleague Alexa continue with our pitch.
Thank you, Emily. When companies develop a proposal to build a plant or a factory in a town, they highlight the number of jobs and economic benefits this plant or factory will bring to a community. But when the plant manufactures chemicals such as PVC and faux fur, which are both petroleum-based raw materials used in fashion, there are some serious health risks to the surrounding neighborhood. Let's say a chemical plant like the one we outlined is built in your town. 10 years after this chemical plant starts operations, one of your children gets sick, and it becomes clear that they won't get better. In fact, they are diagnosed with an illness that doctors are struggling to identify, and they don't even know where it came from. Your child had always been healthy, but now can't go to soccer practice due to respiratory complications. Concurrently, a news story breaks, revealing this chemical plant next to your neighborhood has been emitting fossil fuels and contributing to almost 80% of air pollution. Unfortunately, this is an experience shared by communities worldwide. When communities fail to acknowledge the harm they cause due to their distance from their victims, the global issues we're tackling today emerge. Ethically, we encourage your brand to adhere to the general principle of first, do no harm. I would like to draw your attention to our concerns with Jimmy Choo's raw material waste. In our second recommendation, we mention various biodegradable alternatives to leather, pleather, and faux fur. This recommendation was proposed based on the prior and ongoing use of hazardous chemicals that pose detrimental effects to a variety of ecosystems and communities. McKinsey & Company research has demonstrated that the fashion industry alone contributes almost 4% of total greenhouse gas emissions globally. There are serious repercussions for urban communities from air pollution, which is a result of excessive fossil fuel use. In order to align yourselves with the UN's 11th Sustainable Development Goal, sustainable cities and communities, Jimmy Choo cannot turn a blind eye. Air pollution poses extreme threats to the public health of its inhabitants, some of which include asthma, cardiovascular diseases, birth complications, and reduced lung function. Urban centers usually include under-resourced communities who lack the means to pay for medical treatment. Simply put, continued air pollution creates a dangerous positive feedback loop where obstacles to advancing cities, uplifting children, and creating healthier lives grow larger with every generation. There's also a risk from the use of petroleum-based raw materials such as faux fur and pleather because they too release harmful chemicals post-production. These petroleum-based solutions, which are often incorrectly called sustainable because they don't use real animal skin, take about 100 years to deteriorate. And as they do, they release harmful byproducts, which increase the risk of cancers and immune system damage. In order for Jimmy Choo to be ethically good, this cannot be on the agenda. Circling back to the initial example regarding what is good and what is bad, we have now established that by not investing in biodegradable alternatives, Jimmy Choo is standing idle while individuals are being poisoned and in some cases killed. That is why we suggest that your company invest in biodegradable solutions to minimize fossil fuel emissions from production and avoid the use of synthetic leather alternatives, which remain petroleum-based.
2 minutes.
It is important that if we are to have compassion for all those in society, we cannot forget the ones most vulnerable to the emissions that they are statistically contributing less to. We can also apply this lens to our third recommendation, inform, by acknowledging that there is room for improvement. Once a clear path to progress is made and followed, your company can unarguably state that you have the compassion for all and that you care truly about the common good. Your initial reaction may be the one shared by many players in the global climate puzzle. Why is this any of my responsibility? Well, if any of us have hope in solving this puzzle, we must each do our part. As a corporation, Jimmy Choo must use its influence for ethical good. Failure to act is no longer an option. Thank you for your time, and we hope you understand the ethical imperatives presented here.